hosted by the Center of Sustainable Energy and Environmental Engineering. So the center mission is to promote, enhance, and serve, and the EPA Pollution Prevention Program P2 source reduction assistance. We do at the center on-site energy, lean assessment, regional and on-site P2 energy training. We do also regional workshops, technical and engineering support, cash flow, and market analysis, return on investment. My name is Carol Masara. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Construction Management at ECU and also the director of coastal resilience at the center. Our speaker today is Dr. Cris. Dr. Brezel is currently working as an instructor and pollution prevention specialist at Kansas State Pollution Prevention Institute, leading 2 EPA grants. She received her PhD in industrial engineering with a dissertation on exploring the implementation of virtual reality technology for assessment of daily living activities. She designed VR experiences for fine motor ability using Unity, compared it to the real thing in terms of validity and fidelity, and evaluated effective training protocols and overall usability of the system. She also does interdisciplinary research working with Kansas State Memory and Aging Lab. With the lab, she is currently studying the effects of knowledge-based intervention on segmentation and memory, and doing analysis of fMRI data to investigate the effects of aging and semantic knowledge on event segmentation. So she's doing really nice and great things. Before we start the presentation, let me share some housekeeping with you. The webinar will be recorded. Please make sure that your microphone is muted during the presentation. Dr. Brezel will give the presentation. Then after that, if you have any question, you can save it until the end of the presentation. During the Q&A session, please, if you want to ask a question, either raise the hand to notify me, or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Any question before we get started? Okay, thank you again for joining us. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Brezel.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, ECU, for the invitation. We're really glad about sharing a little bit of the work that we do at our institute with you. So although I'm fairly new at this position with the Pollution Prevention Institute as a specialist, I was actually working with PPI back in 2019. So while I was doing my internship, I had an internship program with PPI in 2019 while I was working on my PhD. So that was a really great introduction to the sustainability side of engineering. And after I graduated, I came back to work with PPI again. So I'm very excited to be here today. So the goal for this presentation is to talk a little bit about why do we care about pollution prevention in the state of Kansas? Why does it matter to us and also to EPA? I would like to introduce some of the work that we do in our institute, and also how are we aligning our institute goals with national goals, mostly from EPA, which is our main source of income in terms of grant funding, and also talk a little bit about one of the programs that we have in our institute, which is our P2 internship program. And then at the end, I would like to share some examples of successful pollution prevention projects that we had in the state of Kansas. Yes. So to start, I just wanted to briefly talk about all the pollution prevention the opportunities that we have in the state of Kansas. So we are very famous for the agriculture side of things and livestock. So we are a leading producer of wheat, corn, cattle. But we also are the home of several different types of industries, including major aviation and aerospace companies like Spirit Aerosystems, Textron Aviation. And we also have a lot of different types of manufacturing companies. So we have more than 2,500 manufacturing companies in the state of Kansas. And we also have new things coming to the state, new investment. We are growing quite fast. We have new facilities coming to the state, such as the semiconductor manufacturing facility, Integra Corporation, that is going to be in Wichita, Kansas. They will be manufacturing microchips, helping with the supply chain that we had that big deal with microchip supply chain in the past couple of years. So the goal is to help with that. And also an electric vehicle battery plants from Panasonic that will be in DeSoto, which is around Kansas City area, which are both very, very large investments. We're talking like $2 and $4 billion investments in the state, lots of new jobs, and a lot of new things happening, which means a lot of new pollution prevention opportunities as well. So next slide, please. Perfect. So our institute was founded in 1989, so we've been here for a while. We are part of the Kansas State University's College of Engineering. Our department is the engineering extension. And a really interesting thing about our institute is that we are 100% grant funded. And with our grants, we have our two main programs, which is the P2 intern program and technical assistance that we do to industrial, commercial, and institutional facilities without any sort of employee number restriction. So we can work with small, big facilities. There's not really a limitation on that. And we also have the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, or SBEEP, which focuses on environmental compliance for smaller facilities, so with less than 100 employees. Perfect. Yes. So our main goal or our main mission is to promote sustainability. We do a lot of different things to promote sustainability, environmental education, services. And for the small business side of things, we want to help them to comply with environmental regulations and also identify pollution prevention opportunities. So this is a really nice map that the Institute created that I think shows a lot of the range of our work. So so the state of Kansas has 105 counties, and PPI has offered and provided technical assistance to every single county that we have in the state. So our work is spread it throughout the state. We have connections with a lot of different types of industries. So it's really nice for us that we are not concentrated in one specific region. So we do tackle P2 all over the state, which is a really it's a really good thing, and we're very proud of that. So just briefly, our institute, the main focus is pollution prevention, or P2. So our focus is going to be on reducing or eliminating waste and pollution at the source. So preventing pollution from being generated in the first place. So I really like that diagram with the inverted triangle. So we try to focus as much as we possibly can on source reduction, but we also include some work involving reusing and recycling as well, but we try to go for the most preferable type of pollution prevention initiatives. And to accomplish that, we try to we have different types of approaches. So we work on things such as change the material, change the process, or change the technology. So that's basically our motto. Whenever we have some very big source of pollution. That's the type of questions that we ask. How can we change the material? How can we change the process or the technology, and we can reduce emissions or any waste being generated and overall environmental impact? So basically, we don't want to put it into the pipe in the first place. So this is the main focus of our work. So we have different types of strategies when it comes to source reduction. So for example, we can focus on eliminating something that is non-essential. So this really lean mindset, trying to improve the operating practices, the processes, modifying the product sometimes so it can be, so it can use less resources, purchasing more durable products, or sometimes extending the product life when applicable. Sometimes we can work on replacing materials, so we can look into finding less hazardous alternatives for any sort of chemical like a solvent. And also always trying to conserve natural resources. So optimizing the process. If we have an oven and we are creating heat, how can we take advantage of this heat being generated for another process that is also part of that same product processing or that same facility. So we have different types of approaches depending on the sector. So from energy sector, for example, we can try to look into benign fuel sources. How can we increase the efficiency when we're using energy? Agriculture sector, sometimes we can reduce the amount of water. So we can figure out what is the optimal amount of water and chemical inputs. So we have the basically the crop growing happy and healthy. Figure out how can we switch the pesticides, adopting less hazardous chemicals in the industry. So basically the type of approaches that I just brought up. So water, energy conservation, reusing materials, modifying the process. And we can also do some source reduction approaches at home. Figure instead of using single-use water bottles, reusable water bottles, not wasting energy, not letting leaky faucets just stay there, fixing them, making sure you're not wasting any water. When you're dealing with cleaning products, for example, looking for greener alternatives, it's not only good for the environment, but good for you. You're being less exposed to some hazardous chemicals. So there are a lot of different types of approaches that we can take depending on the project that we are working on. So I will talk a little bit more. I will be covering mostly our Pollution Prevention Institute intern program, which is part of our mostly our P2 program, but we also are involved with another types of grants as well for the program. But it started in 2006, so it's been a while that we're hosting this internship program. I'm taking the lead on the program this year, so I'm very excited about that. So in this program, what we do is we pair Kansas students with Kansas companies. So we identify host companies in the state of Kansas, and we also identify the students from any Kansas accredited university. We pair them for an 11-week program. They come to Manhattan at K-State for 1 week of training. In this training, we would be basically going over things from scratch, starting at some simple definitions. What is hazardous waste? What is pollution prevention? And going over to training on different types of projects and also how to use different types of equipment that we have available that we use when analyzing and collecting the data from the projects identified. So we have been working with a lot of different companies, and we have more than 100 different case summaries on our website. I will be sharing the link. It's at the end of the presentation, but every intern prepares a case summary covering all the projects that they did during their internship, which is really a nice way to spread the word about the work being done and making sure that the information is available to other facilities so they can refer to that and maybe also implement something similar. And we are currently being supported by 4 EPA grants in the internship program. So we have our pollution prevention EPA grant. There's also a relatively new grant came out, I think 2 years ago or 1 year ago, which is the P2BAL. So it's part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And we also have other 2 grants supporting our internship program, which is on sustainable materials management. We do a lot of solid waste, reduce, reuse, recycle, and also source reduction activities, which this year will involve a hospital climate initiative and also some solvent testing with another facility as well. So we had over 100 interns in our program so far, which is really amazing when we look at that, when we look at those numbers. And we have recruited interns from 8 different Kansas universities. So a lot of people think that we only work with K-Staters, but that's not true. We do recruit all over the state, and we love the diversity. It helps us to grow, and also, you know, we keep it inside, interns from inside the state, but at the same time, they get exposed to so many different students from other universities. So it's a really cool initiative. So we also hire interns from a variety of different majors. So we don't strict ourselves to only environmental engineering students. We've had engineering students from a lot of different backgrounds. We also have students from environmental sciences, a lot of different things, even economics. So it's really nice that we can bring in such a diverse pool of interns to the program. And our numbers have been growing quite a lot. So since the program started, we've been having a really nice average of interns of around, I guess, approximately 6 interns per year. We had that dip in 2020 because of COVID. It was a really unusual situation. But since then, last year, we had 12 interns joining the program. And this year is going to be a record with 15, possibly 16 interns joining our program this summer. And I was checking our database recently, and we had more than 800 projects that our interns worked on for the past, since 2006, basically. So far, out of the recommended projects that involve savings of up to $90 million, $22 million were actually implemented from projects and saved. And a lot of different data, so that in that figure right there, you can see some of our numbers from our P2 program. And a lot of the and I just wanted to bring up a couple of the common projects that interns work on, and we also work on with facilities. So a lot of light audits still. So we still see a lot of facilities that don't have LED lighting, and there's still this myth about LEDs being very expensive, which is not necessarily the case anymore. Payback period for an LED implementation is pretty low right now. A lot of projects also involve compressed air audits. We do train our interns on using an air leak detection system. So they normally go out, and a lot of companies are wasting a lot of money and energy on leaks for compressed air. So they are trained on identifying those leaks and helping the company save money and reduce, of course, energy usage and therefore emissions. Chemical replacement. So like I mentioned, this, for example, if you have a solvent, can we replace the solvent with something that is less hazardous, that is not a HAP, for example? And solvent recovery as well. So sometimes we can reduce the amount of solvent being purchased by recycling the solvent being used at the facility. So we are always trying to align our work with what EPA has set as a national goal. And for this grant cycle, EPA has adopted 6 what they call national emphasis areas. So there are 6 different national emphasis areas right now, so NEAs 1 through 6. So from food and beverage manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, metal manufacturing, and also pollution prevention in Indian country and Alaska Native villages. And in our program this year, our 2P2 grants will be focusing in NEAs 1 through 5. So we are trying to tackle almost every single NEA that is part of this grant cycle. So the NEAs identified from EPA. And this means that whenever we are looking at host companies and trying to identify host companies to be part of our program, we try to focus on those NEAs. And another big focus of EPA right now is environmental justice. So basically, the idea is that everyone has the right to a healthy environment. And unfortunately, disadvantaged communities are normally more exposed to pollution and other harmful chemicals. So we are also trying to work with environmental justice communities or EJ communities so we can create a more equitable and sustainable future for everyone. So, and recently EPA just announced, I think it was literally this month, 2 new grants focusing on environmental justice. So we're talking, if I'm correct, I think $8 million for each of those requests for applications. So we're talking $16 million in funding available. I think deadlines are like June this year. And it's a really great initiative that will be focusing a lot in environmental justice in communities through pollution prevention initiatives. And the other one is through safer and more sustainable products. So we are also trying, so we need to incorporate the national emphasis areas in our work, and also we want to incorporate environmental justice in our work as well. So we are trying to focus on regions that are EJ regions. And we have been using a lot of different EPA tools to identify which regions are those. So for example, we have, I listed the 3 main tools that we've been using. So the one that you can see in the figure right there is the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. So you can basically zoom into the map and see, so the shaded areas are going to be disadvantaged areas. And if you click, you can see why is that considered a disadvantaged area. So for example, the one that is marked right there in Wichita is in the 93rd percentile for asthma, 97th for low life expectancy, and 90th for low income. So basically what that number means is that for that specific region, the data there is higher than 90% of the other values in other regions. So they're in the top region with asthma reporting and low life expectancy numbers and low income. So what we've been trying to do is identify those EJ communities so we can work with those regions to help them improve their quality of life and the pollution being generated around that area as well, make things more equitable. And then, so after we can identify things, let's say that the next step that we do is figure out, okay, which facilities do we have in that region? So this is the EPA's P2 EJ facility mapping tool. So this is basically a tool that can help us identify which facilities are in that region. We can filter things by the national emphasis area, for example. So if you're trying to work with metal fabrication, you can filter metal fabricators that are located in this area. And then we can check, for example, so here I selected a little area in the map, and there's going to be a list of all the facility names, and we can see, for example, if they report to the toxic release inventory and the RECRA. So if they're generating large amounts of hazardous waste, or if they're using any pollutants that are really hazardous to the population, we can kind of track that and reach out to those facilities to see if we can do some P2 work with them. And one of the things that I would like to bring is talk a little bit about our successful cases that we have worked with in our program. So I'm going to talk about three basically cases that we have from our P2 program or PPI intern program. So first one is from Kansas Dairy Ingredients. So they're part of the first NEA, so Food and Beverage Processing and Manufacturing. So they are a company relatively new. I mean, they were established in 2012. Their headquarters is in Overland Park, and they have their facilities is so the manufacturing plant is actually in Hugoton, Kansas. So that's basically Western Kansas. And they are a manufacturing, and they deal with a lot of dairy ingredients that are used in a lot of products at grocery stores. They have earned a lot of different pollution prevention awards since 2017. So because of all the initiatives and all the projects that they implemented so far. And they have really great goals for the company. I think very ambitious, but wonderful. So they are trying to reduce by 2025 domestic water usage, GHG emissions, and solid waste. And for them, it's their facility is located in Western Kansas, which where water is a valuable and sometimes scarce source. And then they decided to implement some initiatives to conserve water in that region. So next slide, please. Perfect. Okay. So I want to briefly talk about that diagram on the right so we can better explain the projects that they did. So their main raw material is milk. So they get milk from a lot of different farms around that region. And that raw milk is converted into, so they separate it from milk and cream. So in red, you're going to be seeing the actual products that they sell. Light blue would be a process step, and then the darker blue is a byproduct. So they have two main production facilities. So one is focused on the milk side and one is focused on the cheese side. So on the milk side of things, what they do is they use a ultrafiltering process to convert the milk to separate it into ultrafiltered milk and milk water. And what they did with this milk water, they use a reverse osmosis system, and they separate that into water and ultrafiltered permeate, which is basically used as animal feed. And then they treat the water so it becomes potable with UV lighting. And then on the cheese side, they get the milk, and then they do the pasteurization and the curdling to make the cheese. And then basically results into some leftover whey, which using some wash tables is actually separated into whey protein content, which is another product that they sell, milk water, which again goes through the same process as the milk side of separating into ultrafiltered permeate and the potable water. So what they did first is the first project, so the cheese plant water recovery. So they are all this potable water that is a byproduct of the process is actually being saved for other process within their facility. So that stored portable water is being used and saving a lot from actual city water usage. And another thing that they have, so the second project was a cleaning project expansion. So they have a cleaning place system on the milk side, which is basically a system that cleans all the pipes and tanks that are used in the milk processing, and they use a lot of water for that. So they have been using this potable water that is a byproduct of their processing to do this cleaning. And after they actually use this water for this cleaning in place, they treat that and they're now sending it to a pond where it can be reused again. So if you go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So then they had the third project, which is the irrigation project expansion. So after being used for that cleaning process, that potable water becomes crop water to irrigate crops. So they decided to take this really nice approach of circular economy. So they integrated, so there's the ultrafiltered permate, which is one of the byproducts of milk water that has been used as animal feed. So they are using the water for the crops, and that is used to feed the cows that will be producing the milk that they are going to be using again. So they are really trying to integrate the water usage and create this sustainable cycle in their facility. And this is a really great initiative and an example of how we can in a lot of cases conserve water. So this initiative is those three projects. They are estimated to save over, and that's a massive number, 76 million, more than 76 million gallons of water. It was definitely an expensive project to implement. We're talking a lot of equipment bought, but they are doing an amazing job trying to conserve the water of that region. So they really want to reduce 100% of the water, city water usage in the long run. And so this is a great example of one of the pollution prevention initiatives that we had in the state. And you can go to the next slide. So another P2 example, this is from Spirit Aero System, which is going to be NEA number 4, another one of our targets. So one of the things that people normally look at is painting processes. They do generate a lot of waste, and they need a lot of solvent to cleaning the equipment being used. So, for example, in this project, Hannah, she was doing some calculations to figure out how much solvent the company was using in their processes and trying to see if they could swap maybe that solvent for something less hazardous. And she identified an aqueous paint gun cleaning system. So that system would be also compatible with their current solvent in case the solution is not effectively cleaning the part. Sometimes you can have some a little tougher parts to clean. So if needed, they could complement with a solvent. And if they're using this basically water system, it would save them a lot in terms of hazardous waste being generated and also input. So what interns do when they identify a source of waste or a source of pollution, they would be working on finding some possible recommendations for the process to improve. And they go and research the alternatives, and then they calculate savings that would be related to those to implementing those projects. So for this one, for example, we're talking about $144,000 annually in cost for that specific solvent, and reducing sorry a lot of VOC emissions. So HAPS 2 lots of gallons of hazardous waste that can also be reduced from the company. So really amazing results. Sometimes things would require some more research being done and some testing. Not necessarily this can be done in the 10-week frame, but we follow up with those companies to see if they were actually, if they implemented the projects, if they continue any of that work, and we also support them if needed to. And then another example, we have RedGuard, which is a blast resistant building facility. So this would be NEA number 5, another one of our targets. This project was done by Lindsay, and she was looking into alternative blast medias for what they were currently using, which was coal slag. So they were cleaning steel structural frames using this abrasive blasting with coal slag, which is a single-use thing, and it was costing the facility almost $120,000 annually. And she did her research and identified an alternative of steel grit, which is something that can be reused up to 200 times. It would require an investment, which is quite normal. Some of the P2 initiatives, they will require a first cost. So this is also something that the interns incorporate into their calculations. So it requires a recovery system that costs about $260,000, but calculating all the costs related to the coal slag and the number of reuses that they expect to see in 1 year, she calculated that more than $100,000 per year could be saved, and this would result in a payback period of only 2.5 years, considering consistent and constant demand, which sometimes is not the case. Sometimes as they grow, they will be saving even more. And I don't think I didn't put that in the slide, but this project would save 315 tons of coal slag being used per year. So to wrap up and talk a little bit of what's next. So yes, we have a lot of agriculture here, but we do have a lot of manufacturing facilities. We have more investments coming in. So this means a lot of pollution prevention opportunities for the state, which means a lot of work for us, which is great. So there's a lot of new grants coming in. A very strong focus in environmental justice is what we are seeing. And there's so many tools that can help us and can help anyone identify those communities. And this is one of the big focuses of one of our current grants as well. And with everything growing, a lot of new opportunities, we are definitely seeing growing internship numbers. Like I mentioned, we have a record number of interns this year, which will be very exciting. We will be working with a lot of different types of facilities, a lot of aerospace, metal fabricators, some companies that we've been working for a couple of years, they're coming back again to work with us, which is great. We have a lot of case summaries, and like I said, I will be sharing the link for our website that includes all those case summaries if you want to take a look. Our goal is to spread the word about the initiatives that we do, so other people can also implement that in Kansas and also any other state. We are also, so I brought up that we have one of our grants focusing on environmental justice a lot. So we are working with preparing some community events. So at the end of the year, we're going to have 2 community events in 2 different counties that are counties with a lot of environmental justice concerns. So what we're going to be doing, for example, in the city of Wichita, we will be having a community event with one of the main manufacturing facilities and aerospace facility, Spirit Aerosystems. So they will be presenting at the workshop. We will have input from the community and talk about start building this relationship. So a lot of the communities, they are a lot of the employees from those big companies. So it's good for the companies, good for the community that we have this open channel of communication. So this is part of our work today, connecting those people. So it increase awareness about EJ and we can help them. So we are going to be supporting them on the technical side of things with sustainability education for those workshops and those regions as well. So we plan on at least 2 of those events for the end of this year. And we're also doing different types of projects. We have a partnership with the Toxics Usage Reduction Institute from the University of Massachusetts, Lowell. And we are doing a solvent testing project. So we will be collecting samples from facilities that use some hazardous solvents. And one of the main concerns of those facilities is that if we swap the chemical for something less hazardous, it might not be as effective in terms of cleaning. And sometimes, for example, for aerospace, they have really important regulations that they need to follow. So it's a really complicated thing to do sometimes, to do this swapping. So what we're going to do is collect some samples, send that to the Institute, and they will do all the analysis of possible replacements and do some quality testing. So hopefully this will help convincing the facilities and showing the facilities that swapping is not necessarily going to impact their quality assurance. And we can actually in a lot of cases, save money and also protect the environment and the people that work at the facility are getting exposed to those chemicals. So a little bit of what's next for us. And I guess with that, I would like to thank you everyone for listening in today. I would like to thank my team. Our team at PPI is just wonderful. We are growing. We are now 8 people. And I want to also thank Nancy Larson, who is here today. She's our program director. And I have the contact information over there. I can drop my email address in the chat as well if anyone wants to reach out. And now if you have any questions, I'm opening the floor for any questions you may have. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brazel. Any questions from the audience?
I saw something in the chat. So our internships turning into employees, we are having trouble hiring people. So we do have some interns that were working at host companies that were hired after they completed the internship. So that has been happening quite a lot. I don't know if Nancy wants to talk about that for some reason.
Sure. The only thing I'd augment that with Cris, and great job, Cris. Wow. Cris has really assimilated a lot of information in a short period of time. So we are so excited that she's leading our programs. And to augment that question, I would just tell you that a lot of companies are very interested in our interns because they see them as potential future employees. And Hannah, who you saw there featured from Spirit Aerosystems, was hired before we could hire her, darn it. But they do a great job. It's a lot of work to have an intern program as far as administrative and assistance, but the payoff is for the environment and the companies and relationships that we build with them is worth it.
Thank you, Nancy.
So another question in the chat, how do you get companies to participate in your program?
That is a great question. And this is something that we have to deal with every year. So it really depends on the grant. So the basic thing, and that's how I see as a great sales pitch that we do have, is showing so when we identify a potential host company, or sometimes they identify us, they see something about PPI in the news, or talk to someone about it. They check our case summaries and they see that our program is focusing a lot. Of course, our main goal is pollution prevention, sustainability, but in a vast majority of cases, we are also talking about monetary savings. So this is a really great selling point for a lot of companies. They see that, yes, I'm going to be hiring an intern, but they're going to be helping us be more sustainable, building our brand, and also in a lot of cases saving money as well. So this is something that we try to focus a lot when we are identifying the host companies. So we also have the side of the training. So we do train the interns, so they do have an on-site supervisor, so someone that will be with them on the daily basis, but they have full support from our staff. So we have a lot of connections, so we do help them implementing the projects, and we train them so they can identify other possible projects at their facility. So this is a hands-on, but also kind of off from the company's perspective. So, and also some of the grants that we have, they have some cost sharing for interns. So our interns are paid $20 an hour, 40 hours a week. And depending on the grant and the specific NEA and NAICS code of the facility, sometimes they can qualify for some cost share. So it can be from 50% sometimes of the cost share. So it means that we pay the interns $20 an hour, but the company pays us only $10 an hour. And some grants cover 100% of intern costs. So the companies can get an intern for free. So those positions are quite easier to sell, but we have been recruiting companies for the other grants as well. And from our numbers, we can see that companies are really interested. They have a lot of P2 work to do, and sometimes they just don't have the time, they don't have the resources. So hiring the intern, it's a great opportunity for them to tackle those projects that have been pushed to the side.
Thank you. Another question in the chat. Do you ask the interns to submit a technical report in addition to the case study?
Yes. So basically the final product that interns work on is going to be the case study, which is short summary of the projects that they did in a really nice, easy, digestible way of sharing the information. But they also they write a technical report to the host companies that goes over all the work that they did during the summer. So they work on these reports throughout the whole internship time. So we normally request them to have 30 to 50% of the final report done by the middle of the program. So we try to keep track and make sure things are moving. 10 weeks, they just fly by so fast, and we try to make sure that they have everything on track. And yes, so they do submit a technical report to the host company. This is not published online. The only thing published online is from the company, and that internships position specifically is going to be the case study with the summary of the projects and the main outcomes.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other question?
Do the interns spend all the time at the facilities, 40 hours a week or part-time? So majority of the positions are full-time positions. So they do spend 40 hours a week at the host companies. And that first week of training that they spend with us in Manhattan, it's also full-time. So yes, it's 100% full-time. We sometimes do have part-time positions or some specific projects, but I would say that the bulk, at least this year, we are talking 15 interns full-time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, it seems that we are done with the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I dropped my email in the chat. If anyone wants to contact me, please feel free to contact. I would love to chat about any questions, any ideas. We're always open to new ideas as well.
So I think
And
we
I
have
saw-
one more question.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I have last minute question. Is there or can you share your experience with the different background of the students, if they are from different disciplines, how you train them in a different way, or they receive the same training and they have the same performance, mechanical versus environmental versus environmental sciences?
That is a great question. And so what the training that they get on that first week, it's pretty much standardized. What we try to do is tailor the training so that it matches the projects that host companies requested. So when a host company applies to the program, they already define 3 projects. That's what we ask for them from them. 3 main projects that the intern would be working on, and then some contingency as well. Sometimes things happen. They have the idea, cannot really execute, so we like to have some backup projects. So we try to tailor the training so that it covers the topics that the projects that the companies requested. And so regardless of the background, we do train them equally. But we try to make sure that we do a good match, because we normally have a really diverse pool of candidates. So some companies we might identify, and that's part of the very complicated process of matching students with the host companies. So we try to see, okay, this host company might benefit from an intern that has a background in chemical engineering, because they will be doing a lot of solvent replacement chemical analysis. So we try to match this company with a student in a relative with a useful background, so maybe chemical. Sometimes, since we have so many different companies, we have so many different projects. Sometimes we have a lot of energy projects, we have the water projects. So this year we have a diverse group. So we do our best to try to match. And if there's something missing, we will definitely train them on that. And we provide full support during the whole internship program. So they have their they will always have me. So I'm basically leading the internship program, but they also sometimes have a backup specialist as well. So we try to identify who has the most expertise for that specific project with that company. We match the student with this PPI specialist, and they can also work together on very specific details for that will be beneficial for that host company. So it's it's very dynamic, but it's also great because this way we can cover so many different P2 initiatives.
And yeah, Cris, question. Yeah, great question. I'll augment that by saying, this is Nancy. I'll augment that by saying that we are always very surprised how some interns come in and we're not sure that if they're going to, how much support they're going to need. But one of the things we really look for, and it has been harder and harder to identify a large pool of candidates, but one of the things that we tell interns we expect is that they are self-starters. They have to be very efficient with their work, and we do keep pretty close, I'd hate to say tabs on them, but we do. We have high expectations for weekly reports and check-ins and making sure that they are meeting the mark. If they are not, we get them extra support. But it's really important to tell people that we also depend on our other community of P2 technical assistance providers, just like you guys. So who are on the line. And so we're able to reach out to our Region 7 or other region technical assistance providers. We also have a relationship with the Surface Coating Technology Center, who works a lot with metal fab and aerospace and some of these other NEA types of processes. And they have been very, very helpful. So we have a great network across the country.
Yeah, this helps us a lot because there's so many areas. It's impossible to be an expert in all of them. So we definitely reach out to all of our resources to make sure they're successful in their projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for the great presentation.
Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone have a great rest of your week. And
thank you very much.
Too.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.